First, we'll start
Just
off with.
recording.
You just start off with. No, you just start off with the intro. I have to say something. Yeah. Sure.
Hello and welcome to the Cricket Surgery. We are very, very happy to present to you our first episode. My name is Vasant and I'm joined by my very close friend Aditya, who's in India and I'm in Canada. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So,
So tell me, how does it feel to be joining this place on the 13th of December, the same day as Kohli's twins
oh man,
of Adelaide 2014?
I am very, very happy that we decided to wait like one more day instead of meeting yesterday. I'm just glad that we waited for the warm-ups to complete and knowing for sure that India has no chance to win this series going
Don't
forward.
evade, don't evade. What about the twins? What about the twins? Where
Okay,
were you that day?
Those were
Did
good.
you cry? Did
No,
you cry?
those
You are
were,
still crying. You are still crying.
those were good hundreds, but yeah, I would remember them more if they came in winning causes. So it's tough to.
Which they never come, right? So of course they never do.
Okay, so
Right.
how about we? So for today's episode, we're thinking we'll maybe start off with the build up to the Australia Test series. So the one thing that I'm really interested in talking about is obviously the Aussie openers. So
What? Do they have any? I didn't know they had any.
it does feel like Australia is going to go in with just 10 batsmen and 10 players instead of 12 this time around, though.
They probably need only one, though, right? Anyway, sorry for digressing, but the thing about Aussie openers just made me laugh. So yeah, tell me.
What's up with your before I get there, I forgot to ask you, what's up with your virtual background? Is this to remind you of the one time in which we won away and
Yeah,
never again?
absolutely, the one time that we'll ever win away. So that makes it even more special, doesn't it? Like in 2044, you'll be remembering this same photo saying that this was the only series we ever won, like any Asian team ever won in Australia.
Fair
Like
enough.
even Daniel Alexander's two favorite teams have not managed to win like a test match in the country. So yeah, that's and what about your background? This is the same test match where he got clobbered by Rishabh and Jadeja, right?
This is to remind you of what's coming in the pink ball test. 7 for 25.
I thought this was a reminder of what just went by. Right.
So speaking of, it does seem like Australia left with no choice but to continue with Marcus Harris and Joe Burns as the openers for the first test. Would you be batting anybody else in the opening slots for Australia?
Considering the background that I have, no way. I'd love those two to be opening, but to be like, if I really try to be a neutral fan, which I cannot be, but if I try to be, then definitely I know that it's going to be Labuschagne opening the batting. A left field selection seemed to be Matthew Wade opening the batting, since he's been doing a fair job in T20s and all. But if Green is fit and Labuschagne is opening, that again brings us back to the death scenario.
That's a fair point. I actually forgot Wade entirely when I was making my 11 for Australia.
So I think they forgot him too, but I think they'll have to get him back somehow.
Are you saying that Wade should open for Australia now?
I'm not saying that. It's somebody who said that. You should have seen the look on Trevor Horn's face when he was seeing the warm-up when Burns again got out for one today. He was frantically on calls, calling up nobody else but Sean Marsh, dude. Who calls back Sean Marsh? That camel. The Aussie Ashwin, dude. Who calls him back?
Yeah.
So it's a mess. I mean, whoever opens, it's going to be a mess. And considering the two gangsters that they are going to be facing, it's going to be a tough ask, man. Yeah. Whatever you say, it's going to be a tough ask.
When you say gangsters, are these the gangsters that failed to win the warm-up match in the second test with 470 on the board?
No, these are the same gangsters as that won this series, the one that's on the background.
Right.
The same one.
Okay, we'll get into that about how that win was unfair in just a bit. But
Of course. Of course.
uh,
Can't hear you from the top, you see. Can't hear you from the top.
oh man, but speaking of the Aussie openers, I think it's also worrying how terrible Prithvi Shaw is currently playing, and it just seems like India refused to give him up when playing overseas. What do you think is the reason why they keep going back to him again and again? Uh, as the
it
preferred opener.
seems to have Shastri's nudes, probably. That's the only reason I can think of. Man can't bat. He really can't bat, at least as of now. He's under some heavy influence, and the way he's just gone off the boil in the last couple of years. He looks like an old 40-year-old man. I mean, it's just unbelievable how from a young 18-year-old he has come to this 22-year-old. It's impossible to believe that. Don't you think so?
It's like in 4 years he's aged at least a
12
good,
years.
yeah, a good 12 years. Like
He looks exactly like Sehwag looks now, without like even 1% of the achievements of Sehwag.
yeah,
So,
if I ever get to it and if I find the time, I'd love to show a photo from 2018 before Prithvi Shaw
absolutely.
injured his ankle in the last Australia tour, and what he looks like right now. And it's not just.
It seemed like such a big blow back then. Remember, we were so worried that Prithvi's injured shit, and right now we are so
And now you're scared that he's gonna play.
he's gonna play. There's some chance he might play. Knowing the current stupid management, I really don't rule him out at all.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But
tell me, who's gonna be your openers for India?
so I obviously I'll go with Gill and Mayank because those are the two options right now. I saw Gill, like I've always had a lot of faith in Gill, and also watching him play in the two warm up games,
Heartening.
it was heartening. He definitely improved, right? So he started with his. I mean, it's we can't really blame him. He's been playing so many T20s in the last few months that he started off with those 15 ball 35s. But then he it seemed like he was getting a hang of
Hang
defending.
of things. Yeah. He
So
seems to play the short ball at least much better than, say, a Prithvi Shaw is. You saw Prithvi Shaw live, right? How was that?
yeah,
Playing the short ball and embarrassing himself in front of the elders, I guess.
yeah, I mean, like I can't really play. So, speaking of, I had the chance to be in New Zealand earlier this year to catch India play New Zealand in the Test series, just in the first Test, which we lost miserably. But it was a
Like
great
we
experience.
always do.
Again, like that was a time when I saw Prithvi Shaw and realized that this man needs a little more work before he can be opening for India overseas. Definitely.
That's true. Gill seems much more ready. I mean, it's going to be a baptism by fire if ever there was one. But the last time an Indian opener debuted in Australia, he's going pretty well right now, isn't he, Mayank?
Yeah. For sure.
So
I'm just thinking like from Gill's perspective, he's going to open. This is going to be his debut match, and he's going to be opening against a very fresh Pat Cummins, Josh Hazelwood, uh, possibly Mitchell Stark coming back, and the fourth bowler who might be Cameron Green or someone else. So how crazy is that?
that's pretty damn crazy. Much like his purported father-in-law had to back then in the cauldron of 1989 in Karachi, right? It's pretty similar to that, dude. I mean, except for the subcontinental rivalry thing, this is going to be pretty similar to that. And opening in a pink ball test, which nobody has too much of experience, that's going to be some scary shit.
You know.
So if he manages a decent, like a 50 ball outing, regardless of how many runs he gets, a 50 ball outing, I would consider that to be a success for sure.
No, overall, in terms of Indian openers versus Australian openers, do you think the balance is tipped more towards India then?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, because it's not because Indians are so good; it's because Aussies are so very bad. So, so that brings me to the next question: how big is the loss of David Warner
Oh my
to
God.
money and to India?
Oh my
The
God.
loss to money. I mean,
So we also have a theory that every time India finds itself in an uncomfortable or inconvenient position, it just buys its way out of it. And I think that's a position that many of our potential viewers, not viewers right now, but viewers that will eventually have will agree to.
don't you think there are way too many examples for it to be just a coincidence of sorts?
No, no.
I
I
mean,
think
Warner
between us,
very
I think it's pretty
casually.
much agreed.
I mean, a man who doesn't get injured ever surprisingly just rolls over while fielding a ball and hurts his groin so bad he's out for a month. How is that even possible?
It's just absolutely ridiculous. I thought,
And and to think that that's coming at the end of a 2-0 drubbing in the ODI series, which clearly showed back then that it would be 10-0. So and you know how this tilts the scales so badly in the favor of Indians, right? So
I
yeah,
mean,
Warner is going to
does
be a
it though?
huge miss.
My question is David Warner's absence going to be enough of uh, uh, an advantage shifting factor for India to get the upper hand in this? Is it like that significant a blow?
If Aussies win the toss, most definitely yes. Most definitely yes.
Why
Because
do you say that? I mean, like if they were batting second, you
if
think the Australian openers, the current Australian openers like Harris and Burns, have a better chance?
not that. See, if Aussies were to win the toss and David Warner was coming out to open in the afternoon at Adelaide, that would have been murder. That would have been absolute murder. It wouldn't have mattered who was bowling. It would have been anybody, and he would have really got them out. But right now, it just gives us some hope. Even if Burns and Harris walk out with the pink ball, with the grass on this pitch as it will be, some hope to get them 30 for 2. Of course, it won't matter after that, but at least 30 for 2 is a decent start.
I think it's going
Eh,
to be 34-2 regardless of whoever's opening.
Yeah, that's regardless of whichever team is
Whichever
opening.
team is opening.
So that's pretty much so. Yeah,
Okay, so enough about the openers. Let's go. Let's just move a little bit into
the
the
engine
top.
room.
Why?
The engine room.
No, there's still time for the engine room. So let's talk about the top order first. In terms of once the openers depart, it's not about once. It's about as soon as they leave.
That's true. Yeah.
So who's gonna
So
come in?
potentially the second ball of the match. Yeah.
And so for India, we have a man who has contributed not once, not twice, but more than that in ensuring that India have walked away as the series winners against Australia,
Yeah.
both at home and away. Cheteshwar Pujara.
Three series in 6 years. He's saved and won by himself. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and it clearly
That's
seems like he is, and especially once Kohli departs for his parental leave, it definitely seems like between both teams, it's just really Steven Smith and Cheteshwar Pujara who are those really world class batsmen. Then
absolutely. I think if Manas is not opening, probably Manas is going to come at 3. So it will be interesting to see from Aussie side too whether they can compete with Cheteshwar Pujara. But yeah, Pujara is the fulcrum of this lineup, the only batsman that's going to save us from being 118 for 8. So it's just a score that seems destined somehow. But I think Pujara, again, that seemed to be the case last time too. But it was only him, particularly at Adelaide. Again, what an amazing 100 he scored last time around from 40 for 4.
for
So
sure.
he's going to be a big factor in seeing how the series goes. Aussies will have his plans for him now that they've seen the middle of his bat so many times in the last summer, in the summer of 2018. I mean, so probably they'll be coming with bigger, better plans too. But I'm
Yeah,
sure he's got enough weapons to nullify those things. So,
it does seem like that Cheteshwar Pujara is that kind of a guy. He started off really well in the warm-up games. He got a 50, but then again, like he seems to have the knack to allow bowlers to hit the top of his off stump.
yeah,
Uh,
so that's definitely there. I would have to say that for all the wonderful things that Pujara did over this last summer, he did need a Virat Kohli or a Rishabh Pant or somebody else to take the initiative back to them. He kept them tiring, and there were the others who scored the runs. Of course, he himself scored big, but it was at the back end. It's when he received support from the other side. You know, had those dull trap sessions not been there with Kohli mostly, it would not have been so easy. It would have
No, I
been a
agree.
real
I,
game.
I completely agree, and because of that, maybe we'll leave the discussion of Australia's number 3 and India's number 4, maybe for the end. And speaking of so let's say that after Steve Smith, it's at least for India, we know that once if Pujara goes, and like if it's 2 down, all of a sudden we still have Virat Kohli at least in Adelaide to come in
Yeah.
and steady the ship, and that's pretty good. Who is Australia's number 4?
Isn't it Steve Smith? I mean, isn't it supposed to be Steve Smith?
So who is number 3 then? If Labuschagne is opening,
If Labuschagne is opening, then Smith is definitely 3. And then again, who's number 4? No clue. Maybe Travis Head. I don't know. But it's not the same, right? It's not the same, right? It's not the same.
So would you bat Smith at 3 or at 4 in order to allow Labuschagne to open maybe?
4. It has to be 4.
So
It has to be 4.
So in that case, Labuschagne is at 3 then.
Yeah. Labuschagne. It doesn't matter who opens. With the kind of bowling rhythm these guys are in, if Shami and Bumrah are hot, they'll get Labuschagne. Let's be sure. So you might as well just waste a lesser wicket to them and get Labuschagne and Smith at 3 and 4. I mean, 3 and 4 are usually the ones who keep you in the series. Whenever we have done well, I think we might remember the times of early 2000s, late 90s, where there were a decent number 3 and a number 4, right? They didn't do too badly when we used to do somewhat well in Australia. So
not the worst.
Not the worst. I would take them right now. Even at this age, I would take them for sure.
Do you think Labuschagne's red hot form from last year, where he substituted for Stephen Smith first as a concussion replacement, and from there onwards he just seems to have found a groove unmatched by most batsmen. He's now at number 3 in the list of all-time batsmen. I mean, like at least in the current batsmen. So, do you think that form is going to translate against Indian bowlers?
There's a high likelihood. The way he was playing, even in the ODIs, he looked on, man. He did look on. It's going to take. It could go either way. I mean, it's going to take a hell lot of work from him too to get those kind of runs against this bowling attack. But I think we said that the last time against New Zealand too, that New Zealand have a gun attack, and it's going to take a lot. And he scored like crazy, didn't he? Like 180, 200. I don't know. I don't even remember. But it was bad. It was very, very bad. Painful to watch.
Those guys made a lot of runs.
So, Man's got it. Man's really got it. It's not a fluke. That last season was definitely not a fluke. I mean, he might have the second season woes and he might fail and this and that, but he's got it.
Yeah.
He does.
So given that in the top 4 for India, we definitely have 3 reliable batsmen now. So we have Mayank Agarwal, Cheteshwar Pujara, and Virat Kohli. And for Australia, it's Labuschagne and Smith. So it's literally just 3 versus 2 right now for the top order batsmen.
It's 3 versus 2 right now, but those 2 and the one guy. That's the one that makes all the difference. I know we're going to talk more about him as we go on, but that is a scary prospect. It doesn't really matter whether we've got 3 or 2 or 1 or that. That's the only guy that really matters.
That's true. I think all of this surgery only is with the implicit assumption that Steve Smith will play more like a human being and not like the demon that he has become now.
Yeah, well, to be really honest, I'll be bullish and say that if he doesn't play like a demon, India got a decent chance of winning. Let me say that.
It's on. Look at this. Look at this.
Look at this. So, I let's say that if he returns to his human levels, like pre 2012, pre 2012 levels, then India got a chance. When he was just a leg spinner, if he bats like the leg spinner that he was, India has got a chance.
I still remember even when he was a leg spinner, I think he got like a 70, 80 odd in England back then. Even that wouldn't be too bad.
He did. So right now, 80s are failures for him, right? That man.
That's
80s
true.
are failures.
Okay, so let's avoid talking about Steven Smith because it makes us very sad as fans of Indian cricket. In terms of the engine room, as you mentioned, so there's Vihari, and that's it, right? I mean,
Sad, dude. Come on, don't forget the vice captain, the incumbent captain.
oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm really the captain, not the vice
You
captain.
did it on purpose, didn't you?
Not the captain, not the vice
No,
captain, the actual captain.
I was going to forget Paine. You already forgot Rahane. So nice.
Oh man, that is a battle that we haven't yet talked about. This probably this Border Gavaskar Trophy is in the second test at least. It's going that at the toss are going to be two people who are by far even Rahane has at least like worked hard in his life, but it's really strange to see Payne and Ajinkya Rahane come out to the toss
Where's the charisma,
for
dude? Where's the
Boxing Day,
charisma?
no less.
Boxing Day. Where's the charisma? Boxing Days are supposed to be what? Ganguly versus Steve Waugh. What,
Oh my
right?
God.
Even Dhoni versus Clark. It was like what? Yeah. So Kohli versus Clark, Kohli versus Smith, whatever it was in 2014. This is going to be painful, man.
Then
Rahane.
Dhoni versus Watson.
It, even in 1999, it was Sachin and Steve were walking out. I know.
Oh
I mean, it
my
was
goodness.
Sachin, but it was Sachin. Dude. Come on.
Just have goosebumps thinking of
Yeah,
like the Boxing Day entry.
just look at every years before 2017, and it used to be crazy.
I wish
So
we
it's
had
going
the
to stay.
technology back then to do this surgery.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but anyway.
But it would not have mattered. No, there was no surgery then. In 1999, what was there to operate?
No, I mean, like back then it was like the best versus the best, and now it's really about who's gonna
The
suck
worst
less.
versus the worstest. The worst versus the worstest.
The battle of the worst.
The battle of the worst. I know that. Yeah, so 5 versus 6 again. Both teams have issues, dude. Both teams have issues. There's no
Uh,
doubt about that. But I think you'll want to tell me more about one player you are really excited about in that top six.
you mean Cameron Green for
Yeah,
Australia? Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. I
yeah.
mean, Cameron. So it's my theory that every team, at least in Test cricket, regardless of how bad they play, they manage to come up with that one player, that one X factor who goes on to destroy us in every Test series. It could be like Sam Curran in England in 2018.
We called
Uh,
Jamieson this time, right? We
exactly, we
called
got James.
Jamieson before the series.
So it's
We
always
called
some
Jamieson.
tall, strong,
At this point, I'd
ridiculous.
like to put my hand up and say I made so much fun of Sam Curran before the England Test series, and foot in my mouth is an understatement. The guy became not just one or two days, he was the man of the series, dude.
Oh my
Like,
God.
how wrong can it be?
Absolutely
So
ridiculous stuff.
I fully agree with that. Yeah, it's
So,
going to be.
so I, for me, and I am biased obviously towards an Australia result, but Cameron Green at number 6 versus so Rahane is definitely going to be 5, I
Five,
think,
five,
5,
five.
and Vihari is going to be 6. So it's pretty much Hanuma Vihari versus Cameron Green, and Hanuma Vihari's bowling really does not get you as much as Green's does.
Nothing. That's putting it very mildly. You saw what Green did on the first morning of the Sydney warm-up thing,
Oh,
right? Like
God.
the way he was making the ball talk. So to say that Hanuma Vihari is not as good as Green in bowling, well, it's a massive. But you see, there's still issues there. Again, Aussies have got issues, and if Labus and Smith are batting 3 and 4, they still are uncertain about their 5 and 6. I mean, it could be Head and Green who is making his debut, and Head who is not really certain of his place, or Wade and Green, or Wade and Head. So again, Aussies have these issues. Of course, I mean, what will happen in the future is something for us, but they are not as settled as you would think they are.
You would call them issues, I'd call them options. So,
But not the best options to have, I say, for a team that was used to having Steve Waugh at 5 and Hussey at 6.
yeah,
Well, it's a
yeah. I
far
mean,
cry.
I think that era is well and gone
Well and
now.
truly gone. Yeah, so it should not be. But yeah, so the thing is, Aussies have serious issues in top 6. I mean, except for Smith and Labuschagne until Warner comes back. They are going to find it tough too. If Smith has an off day, it's going to be real fun watching for
So,
sure.
and speaking of like the engine room, like one, like we're not talking about like one player each from both teams. So there's Rishabh Pant, who's an absolute sensation.
Fabric.
Exactly. And then there's Matthew Wade, who's got 2 overseas centuries now, and Ashes centuries,
Ashes overseas, man.
right? So and that is absolutely ridiculous. So these are two power
Same number of
hitters.
hundreds in England as Virat Kohli, right?
At
And
a
lesser
better
number of
average.
ducks. And a lesser number of ducks, probably.
I mean, you have his photo behind you, so
I know. This is Australia. It's easy. England is tough, man. This is easy. Aussies are his bitches. So,
bitch.
yeah. We saw that from 2012 onwards, right?
I'm
So,
still of the opinion that this series could. I mean, once Virat Kohli leaves, and we're all worried about how totally, utterly, unbearably unwatchable this series will become. I still feel that it's Mitchell Starc who could bring the series to life. I think he's still got that spark in him to be able to replicate a sort of performance like
are we
Johnson.
discussing him right now, or
No, we'll come to him. We'll come to him because we are nearing Stark.
the
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Stark territory?
the lower order now,
But
anyway.
yeah, yeah, lower order, man. So tell me, as an Aussie supporter, who would you like behind the stumps, Pant or Saha?
So definitely Pant. I mean, there's no doubting that. I mean, Pant for me, he did so well back in 2018, and I was just so happy that after an era of absolute mediocrity behind the stumps.
And by the same guy in front of stumps too, right?
Yes. So, I mean, like, look, Mahendra Singh Dhoni was a legend, and he's done some absolutely ridiculous stuff. But the fact of the matter remains that the kind of excitement that you need from a wicket keeper behind, and really, that energy that you need to lift the team up, I really felt that was lacking in Dhoni's keeping towards the last, fag end of his career.
5 years.
Yeah.
It's not even the fag and last 5 years of his
Yes.
career, dude. 2011 onwards, it was such
Yep.
rubbish being thrown out at us.
Yeah, it's almost blasphemous to speak against Mahendra Singh Dhoni because of his achievements, but obviously we don't care. We're surgeons, so
But dude, we saw each and every ball from 2011 England tour to 2015 Australia tour, right? We know what pain we went through. So we really can't forgive that guy for what he's done to us.
we've lost a
So
lot of matches under that guy.
and it's not even that, dude. Losing is one thing. We are used to losing, but but daily conceding 650, 700, nobody giving a single shit about that. That was very painful. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
so
then
yeah,
Kohli's really come in, and now this team is more watchable for its fast bowling than for its batting now, which is
yeah,
absolutely ridiculous.
yeah.
Kind
So
of. So again, just coming back to Pant, like I had a lot of faith in him. I still do, and then in 2018 he did so well in England and in Australia, where like in his first outing ever he got 2 centuries, and he destroyed bowling attacks all over. But then he kind of fell away in terms of fitness, etc. in the IPL, and and he just kind of fell out of contention overall.
I think there's been an issue with managing him too. To be very honest, he's not been given the necessary support that he would want as a 22-year-old. I mean, all said and done, the guy is still only 22, right? So there will be days when he'll not feel well. I just think that Kohli and Shastri did him a big, you know, a big, lack of favor kind of a thing by putting him in the World Cup squad, and the people watched him. Nah, he's not ready. He scored 30 semi-final. He walks in at number 4 and all that. So I think he just needs confidence. I mean, he's been told that he's not a white ball player anymore for India, which I think it's stupid when guys like the other Iyer and Pandey are playing, and Pant, who can belt the ball like the way he can, he's not even in the squad. That does send him some weird signals. And to be very honest, Saha is a superb keeper. and he's not bad with the bat too. He's no Rishabh Pant, of course. So it must play on his mind and his confidence. I think there's been an issue with managing him, to be very honest. In 2 years, he's gone from the darling of the Indian cricket to somebody maybe on the sidelines. There's a fat chance he might not even play Adelaide. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, Kohli is known to doing crazy stuff
Absolutely.
the day off, so you never know. But the good thing is, it based on his century, even though against like a harmless bowling attack, he still got to a century with 22 overs. He came in with 22 overs remaining to the day, and in an entirely dark night, like
Exactly.
full night
And
session.
what else do you want the man to do? He's got 3 first-class overseas hundreds, right? Two on the same ground overseas at Sydney, right? SCG. So I mean, the man's got temperament. It takes so much guts to score those things. So
Has any other Indian wicketkeeper got a single first class 100 overseas?
no, no, not really, not at all. First,
Not
he
even
was
a
the
first
first to
class
get it.
100.
Not, I mean, I might be wrong, but definitely the first to get in England. Definitely the first to get in Australia. Right? At 21, he was 21 back then.
And then
So
he's still 22 when he's got his second first class 100 at the SCG now in a day night
at the
setting.
SDG, how crazy is that? I mean, the
Yeah, so
health of
there's
the
no
attack
doubt
that
in
he
my
plays
mind
with.
that I'd play Rishabh Pant ahead of Riddhiman Saha.
Also,
Given
also there was a left field discussion about the combination that the team might go for. If they're going for four fast bowlers and a spinner, then the keeper will have to bat at six. In that case, there's no way Sahab makes the cut as number six, right? If they're playing with only five batsmen, then it has to be Pant all the way. If he's batting at seven, they might think that it won't really matter, and that's Kohli's line of thinking. I'm not endorsed to that. For me, it's Rishabh Pant all the way. But I'm just trying to put myself in Kohli's shoes.
yeah, yeah,
So
that's a fair point. And then there's Australia's captain who for years has outside of his country, I'm not really sure how many people regard Tim Paine highly enough. Uh, but
do
you
we
have
regard him highly in the country, in his country?
I mean, that's what I'm trying to get to, right? I mean, he did take up the captaincy at a time when the team was in absolute turmoil. There was possibly nobody else other than Nathan Lyon who could have probably gotten the captaincy at that time. And given his proximity to the fast bowling unit, it was only natural that they had to find like a neutral person to take over the captaincy. So given that, and from where the team has, and obviously a lot of it has to do with the Demons' return in the Ashes. But
I mean,
even so, the man has held on to the captaincy for like more than anybody would have thought.
yeah, yeah. Credit to him where it's due. I mean, he's still like the third or fourth best keeper in Australia for sure. So yeah, so
So would you play
definitely
Alex Carey instead of Tim
any day
Paine?
and every day, any day and every day. I would
And
make him captain if for that matter. I would make him captain. He surely can't do worse job than Payne. I think Payne's biggest achievement has been not coming in the way of fast bowlers and Smith probably. That is
he's
something
not been
that
an
he
obstacle to their course.
his Kohli on one side who just wants every piece of the action from everyone, and then there's Payne on the other side who will not bother. He knows that he's worthless, largely worthless in the team. Take one or two blinders and whatever. He doesn't know how to call the toss to make the right decisions at the toss. Self-confessed again. I'm not saying that he said that. So, but yeah, he doesn't come in the way of the quicks. Lets them do their work. If that's an asset of captaincy, then yeah, he's doing a decent job. But let's face it. I think aside from no, I can't think of a name where aside from he's the least charismatic Aussie captain they've ever had. So
Yeah.
maybe Kim Hughes. I would have to go back to Kim Hughes maybe where he lost 10-0 to West Indies and then got sacked and he cried and got sacked.
Well,
So
maybe it was time for Australia in at least those 2 years to have a captain who wasn't defined
also
by his on-field persona.
also the question that we have been constantly asking of India is relevant for Aussies too. Who is their vice captain?
That's yeah.
Who's
They don't, and neither team has a vice captain right now. Like
the
if,
team as
if
the vice
Kohli
captain?
was to leave, and if Rahane got a bouncer, a bad one, honestly, I do not know who will take the
Absolutely.
captain. right now.
Absolutely no idea.
It's probably
I
be
don't even
Pujara.
know if I don't even know if they'll announce it the day before the Boxing Day Test match. But everybody's gonna be looking at somebody. It's gonna be a comical scene if Rahane has to go to even pee, you know, on the field, and who's gonna take over?
I think it's probably going to be Pujara though. Yeah, if
Has
something.
to be. Also, I mean, I know there's a discussion that's going to come on the men who are missing in action, but they needed someone who was calm and collected on field. You know whom I'm talking about, right? That would have made a real good vice captain in the
Yeah,
absence of two regular captains. So
yeah, yeah. As or captain.
yeah.
Look, at least we can take it for granted that he won't make terrible decisions on the day of the toss in terms of the lineup. He'll choose a
Yeah,
stable squad, Mr. Rohit Sharma. Uh,
yes, the squad will definitely feel more comfortable around him. That's for sure. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not really sure. For these kind of contests,
yeah.
yeah, you
I
need
think
a fire lit up your asses.
Virat Kohli leaving in the second test and Rohit Sharma coming in. I'm still pretty confident that he's not going to be playing Boxing Day.
He's not going to be playing Boxing Day. I just hope he plays Sydney though. I mean, Sydney Test is 10 days from Boxing Day. You know, we've again managed to buy out the schedule. New Year's Test is in the second week of the New Year for the first time in the history of the sport. We managed to buy out the
Everything
schedule.
works according to the BCCI. I think the only way our podcast or videocast is going to survive is if we use no footage. Otherwise, they're going to get us banned.
We'll be copyrighted too. You know,
I think
I
we
had a,
copyrighted for these banners.
I'm sure. Do they have a copyright something? Uh, this is not my image. This is available on the internet. Please don't
I
ban
can.
me for
It's freely
this.
downloadable. So, yeah. Anyway,
So
anyway. So, so Paine, in as less charismatic as he may be,
temporary skipper. Yeah,
it still looks like he's going to be leading in his 6 to 7 series as captain now, and at least for the next tour as well. And if something were to happen to him, I think it'd be safe to assume that Steven Smith would get the captaincy back now at this
by
stage.
default probably. Yeah, by default. Yeah, I think that's the only default option they have. They were grooming. I think Travis Head for the captaincy, but he's not a certainty in the team in any case. So yeah, that's. I mean,
That man defies all possible logic for me. I have no idea why they have so much faith in that guy.
I don't know, man. I don't know. He's been leading South Australia to probably nothing over the
He's
few
never made
years.
more than 30, 35 against us. Like, I always
I
think
don't.
he's going to come up with like 100, but nothing. Zero.
Yeah, nothing at all. And again, it's number five again. Number five is so crucial. Over the years, we've seen so many unbelievable number fives across all teams. This, for the first time, I felt that the Aussies selected the captain on the basis of English players, where they first selected the captain and then they decided a team around him. Usually, it's the other way around. Like Ponting was the skipper. Come on. So
And then that's it. That's where the selection ends.
that's it. He has everything now. I don't know how much of say Tim Paine has in selections and this and that, but yeah, I mean,
I think
so
given his limited talents compared to the rest of the Australian squad, the
yeah,
very fact that he still continues to be their captain and allowed to continue, and it's very clear that that transition phase is over now, right? So Warner is back for good, Smith is back
absolutely.
for good, and they're still choosing to go with
They're
Paine.
still choosing to go with him in such a way that they still don't have an anointed vice captain.
Yeah,
They don't make their bowlers to be captains, right? So again, the same Rahane argument. If he gets a blow on his head, who gets back the captaincy?
yeah,
It's the
yeah.
same thing.
So I think the good thing is
So,
that
so
if they have a former captain in their squad who's led
they have,
for over 30 tests now, who can take it back
yeah,
at any point of time.
and if it's going to be an interim thing, then Pat Cummins would, I think, make for
Yeah,
more than a decent captain. So
yeah.
yeah, that's
I think Pat Cummins is also, in more ways than one, the
the
heart of the team.
talisman of the team. Yeah, yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and as we were talking about, I don't think a test match could start, a Border Gavaskar match could start technically right now without Pat Cummins' presence in the team.
He would make like all time 11, world 11, whatever it was, the all time border Gavaskar 11 or whatever it was. He would make that very easily for sure.
It is so crazy that this guy absolutely lost his way after, again, like a good start. He had so many stress fractures. It's a
Absolutely,
different
it's
thing
so
to make a
crazy, right?
comeback for like a couple of series and like bowl all out. But this man has held on to his pace and his skill.
914. 914 rating points, as good as Glenn McGrath, dude.
Yeah.
That's
And how
not
crazy is
easy.
that? Like you like I would find that unfair, that sort of a comparison of any bowler with a great guy, with somebody as great as Glenn McGrath. But in Pat Cummins's case, it does seem like it's a reasonable
Legit.
comparison.
It's legit. It's legit. True.
Uh,
Absolutely.
who's our answer for Pat Cummins? Is it Jasprit Bumrah or is it Mohammad Shami then? Who's our star fast bowler then?
It's Mohammad Shami, no doubt about that. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Come on.
Why do you
We
say so?
know
I
that.
mean, like most people would say that Jasprit Bumrah is like the best bowler in the world, but you seem to have, uh, uh, you know, uh, your beliefs firm about Mohammad Shami being the leader of the attack.
He's been going on and on for the last 5 years, right? On and on and on for the last 5 years. No injury. He's fought back so many injuries, personal issues, all kinds of that kind of troubles that would break a lesser man. And he's just come out and bowled and over after over across entire 2018. The year that tilted me completely in his favor was how we ran through Australia, England, South Africa. The entire year without missing a test match, he kept coming in and in and in. And record-wise, I think he's only behind Pat Cummins in terms of number of wickets for fast bowlers in the last 3 years. That's phenomenal, especially when you have taken an era of Anderson, Broad, and the other guys to be just behind Pat Cummins. It's monumental. Wagner, Bolt, Saudi, all those guys, and he's still right up there.
Yeah.
I mean, Bumrah is, of course, Bumrah is Bumrah. There's no doubt about that. But again, he seems somehow. I mean, batsmen seem to have figured him out a little more than they did in his debut season. So he's going to come back stronger for sure. I know that. But it's Shami right now. He's been playing for 7 years. He's got this reverse swing. He's got the Yorker. He's got the bouncer, a deadly bouncer actually, and he's got all the tools. And that seam position, man, it reminds me of Srishant.
Yeah.
How I wish Srishant was here,
Oh my
right?
God, we so wish Srishant was playing under Virat Kohli right now. That would have been a
And
dead.
that would have surely had us exchanging the wallpapers for sure.
Oh man, we would both have Srishant's
Well,
wallpapers.
we both are Srishants, right? So
Yeah,
absolutely,
even Shami's
absolutely.
presence in the squad kind of makes me feel that
Lifts.
even if David Warner was playing, Shami would have found a way around Warner as well.
He just keeps running in and in. Now if there's one tribute to Kohli that you would pay amidst all the big bats, it's the rise of Shami. I mean, one guy that has really flowered under his intense training, it's Shami. Ishant is not around, so we'll not talk about him right now. But it's from this squad, it's got to be Mohammad Shami who's benefited the most from Kohli's style of captaincy, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And do you
Of all,
think that I mean, and the one man who's probably, again, like speaking of all of these bowlers improving under Kohli, Ishan Sharma, who would have probably played his 100th test this
100
tour,
test, yeah.
and that would have been absolutely phenomenal. Like after Kapil Dev, the first
First bowler
almost
to do
fast
that.
bowler
Oh,
to.
yeah. Yeah, and also the kind of donkey work that he's put in over 13 years. You remember each and every tour he just kept running in, conceding 600 runs every time, still kept coming back, had the faith, and my God, in the last 4 years he's been a changed man.
I thought he was even more jet lagged than I was during the New Zealand tour. He arrived just a couple of days before the first test. He was jet lagged. He was sick, and yet he was by far the best bowler from the Indian team. He took a 5-4 at the Basin Reserve. So, do you think that the balance that he provided the Indian bowling attack, especially complementing Shami and Bumrah together, do you think India are going to miss him way too
Big time.
much, or is Umesh going to plug in some of their holes?
Big time. India is going to miss him big time for sure. I mean, Umesh is good in his own way, but he's still more in the Shami kind of mode, a lesser Shami, if you would say that. Ishant is the workhorse. He's been that kind of a guy who will not concede more than 2 runs and over any time. Even in the last Australian tour, he got like 12 wickets or something, but his economy rate was 1.9 or something. Just suffocating the hell out of people. Umesh is definitely not going to do that. He's going to concede boundaries. He's primarily a swing bowler, so he's going to concede boundaries. He might get a little more purchase out of Adelaide, in particular, but on those dead tracks of MCG and Sydney in particular, I think Ishant will be missed very badly.
Yeah, and what
Yeah.
sort of an impact do we think that Josh Hazelwood is going to bring in? Like for me, at least, there's personally, and again, like I am very clearly biased, but there's no greater joy than watching Pat Cummins and Josh Hazelwood operate together as a unit right now.
I think that's what I was going to ask you. That Cummins and Hazelwood is a sight to behold for everyone. Like the bats, if a batting unit can score off them and win a test or a series, I think regardless of whatever darkness might exist, I think it just needs to be handed over to them. It's such an amazing duo. You remember Ashes in 2019, the way they just kept running in and in and in, not one moment of respite for the teams.
It's incredible that they just do not break
And
down
and
under
and
any
and
circumstance.
and and it gets amplified when coming behind them is the best off spinner in the world
Nathan
right
Lyon,
now,
yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
for sure. And
Isn't it?
that's not a joke at all. He is the best off spinner in the world right now.
It's not a joke. I think it's the best spinner in the world per se. I mean, I don't even think of any leg spinners, these tees or whatever, who can really show a candle to him. So, do you think that Steve Smith, Cummins, Hazel, Nathan Lyon is going to be the X factor of this series?
Well, the one thing that I saw in yesterday's warm up again was that, in spite of the fact, see, there are going to be phases for us where Bumrah and Shami and Umesh are going to maybe struggle for answers, and they're going to. It's doubtless that they will keep asking questions, but whether or not they'll succeed at all times, I'm pretty sure there are going to be a couple of sessions where they're going to get no wickets, and that's really where we need an attacking spinner option. I don't really care if it's like an off spinner or a leg spinner. But given the fact that Ravichandran Ashwin has now gotten over 350 wickets, I think that sort of a job is almost expected from a guy that senior in your squad. But time and again, Ravi Ashwin has failed to deliver overseas for India now.
Absolutely. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I mean, this is what his fourth tour. He's played 7 tests and averages around 50 in Australia. I mean, I know Australia is not a country that's very kind to off spinners in particular, but Lyon has been bowling all his life there, and he's closing in on 400 test wickets.
And
Now,
Lyon has gotten success in England. He's got success in India.
in India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, you name the country. South Africa, he did fantastically well the last time he went there. So that is the thing.
And
I mean,
I think speaking of X factors, it's not just like Nathan Lyon's bowling, right? It's also his ability to really lift the whole team with his fielding as well.
caught and bolts, run outs, anything, man. So, and that is the thing. Also, the fact that befuddles me is Nathan Lyon is bowling in Australia for half his career, right? He still has more wickets than Ravi Ashwin. That's one thing. Second thing, he will be bowling to players who play spin fantastically well most of the times. Indians, the Pakistanis, the Lankans, when they come here on wickets that don't offer him much purchase,
and he
and
still succeeds.
still does all those things, man. So that's really not a small achievement. So I think Nathan Lyon is that's one aspect where I think there's absolutely no comparison between the Indian. You would see that in the batting orders there are issues everywhere, and you might say some team has the edge, some team, but it's the edge. Again, keeping the same thing. Fast bowling, some might say, yeah, Bumrah, Shami, Cummins, Hazelwood, but that's one aspect where Aussies are way ahead of us.
Would
For
you
sure.
be tempted, given Ashwin's lack of returns overseas? It's really tough, right, for a bowler who's got so much success in his home country to see him not deliver at all overseas. Even in England, he started off well in Edgbaston, and
Yeah.
then he couldn't even help us defend decent targets. There was just no attacking option in the form of like an off spinner for us, and I think that's where Lyon is going to shift.
Plan, absolutely.
Yeah,
He won them the Edgbaston test of his own, right on the last day.
yeah.
Lion. It's a 6 for 40 or something like that. Just ran through England on the last day. He ran through India in Pune and Bangalore, man.
I think he's got like
So
an 8-4 in India and stuff like that. I think
on day one at Bangalore, how crazy is that?
And again, like you said, and those were some phenomenal spin players that
Spin
that
players.
he
And
got.
Puji and all are like fantastic. Puji, Kohli himself. There was KL Rahul in the form of his life at that time. So Rahane himself. So yeah. There's no doubt about that. That
At any
Lyon is
point of
head and
time, would you consider swapping Vihari for a KL Rahul?
not for the first two tests for sure. I mean, then the options might in any case open up. I think if Kohli goes, then Rahul might slot in just like that as a default. I don't know about that. And not knowing what Rohit is up to.
So
So for boxing time, but not for Vihari. No, not now. I mean, the first class average of 59 has to mean something, right?
yeah, that's fair enough. That's
So,
fair enough. So do you think Rohit is going to be like a direct swap for Kohli once he comes and Kohli leaves?
I mean, is that a trick question? Is that supposed to be a trick question? I'm not really sure.
So excited about Rohit Sharma's return. I think
Oh
he is the
man,
guy, and we refuse to talk about. And obviously, I mean, there's also this aspect about Pattinson as like a reserve bowler, and then we've got Siraj, Tyagi, and who is,
Saini.
and Saini obviously waiting for us in the wings. Any of them excite you? You had a lot of hope from Saini, but then you've seen him in
I
this.
had they just dude in the first two ODIs, he was just hit out of his traps. I mean, he just looks a different bowler in just two ODIs. So it clearly shows he's not ready, right? So I think if and
Honestly,
so
I fail to understand how this could happen to Saini. I mean, he looked so sharp before coming to
so sure.
Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. He was the big hope, and I think he could still turn out to be pretty good in the future. But two one days getting clobbered has just broken him down completely.
I
I don't
thought that
see
he
him
would
winning the
return.
game.
I
Yeah,
thought
I
he would
don't see him.
return in the first class warm-up game, a different bowler, but he was like taken apart at like 6 and over.
Yeah. And therein lies the biggest problem that India are going to face this series, the problem of replacements. If, God forbid, one of Bumrah or Shami turns up one morning with a hammy, it's over. It's over at that moment itself. There's nothing happening next. So that's a very scary scenario. And to be chasing leather for so many deliveries, so many overs for so many tests in a month's time, right? It's going to take a lot out of them to finish all those four tests.
So it's absolutely imperative that both Bumrah and Shami remain fit throughout the test tour, and neither of them break down even
You
once.
know, the breakdown. Yeah, and as you said, Ashwin or whoever select is going to be the defensive spinner. So the onus of taking wickets will be entirely on their shoulders. You see, all 20 wickets every single test match. That is a huge amount of work that we are asking of them.
So
So
I,
and these are not mugs with the bat. These are not like Rory Burns or somebody like we were talking about Labuschagne and Smith. That's very Keaton Jennings.
Rory Burns did get a century in South Africa though, and New Zealand, I think.
Yeah, he did. So
Anywho, so would
so
you be
now
tempted to?
let's come to the real
No, no,
talking
hold
point
on,
of
hold
the
on, hold on.
series.
This is the last question. Would you be tempted to not play Ashwin at all, given his lack of returns overseas, and be tempted to play five almost fast bowlers?
No, not five. Who are the five? Just please tell me who are the five that are going
So
to play.
Bumrah, Shami, Umesh, Siraj, and I don't know, Tyagi.
Exactly. So you're laughing, right? See, that's not happening. honestly, if Jadeja was fit any day and every day, I would be picking Jadeja over
It's just
Ashwin
so
now.
unfortunate that Jadeja is not going to
It's
play
just
this test
yeah,
because of a sad concussion in a worthless T20 again.
a made up concussion and a pulled hamstring. Let's put it that
Oh
for
my
what it
God.
was.
That concussion substitute was just ridiculous. Mm.
So the thing is that if Jadeja was fit, there's no doubt he's way better batsman, and he cannot do much worse than Ashwin in terms of bowling, right? And I mean, the man's got so much character, temperament about him. He's delivered every single time Kohli has asked everything for him, and I'll stick my neck out and say, in an era where Steve Smith is playing, he is the best fielder in the world. Ravindra Jadeja is the best fielder in the world right now.
when Steven Smith is already playing.
Even when he's playing, even when Steve Smith is playing, Ravindra Jadeja is the best fielder. I challenge you to prove me wrong on that.
Speaking of now, let's kind of get back to the two people who avoided as much as possible to talk about so far. We've talked about everybody else. Exactly. So obviously, I mean, Mitchell Stark.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
How big a loss to Australia is the return of Mitchell Stark to their squad?
I was just going to get there. So I was struggling and laughing to find 5 bowlers who could play for India, even if we wanted to. But the fact of the matter remains that Mitchell Stark coming back right now and putting his hands up, no selector in the whole world would be able to leave out Mitchell Stark from a pink ball day-night test match.
Any day, yeah. I have to agree with that.
So
I've seen him getting clobbered for like 7-8 years against India, but I have to agree with that. There's no doubt about that.
No, I agree too. I mean, I find it fascinating that the Indian batsmen have found multiple ways to absolutely destroy Mitchell Stark over so many years. It's incredible.
Also, I think a big factor will be whether Mitchell Stark is bowling on the first afternoon or whether he's bowling at the back of 550 runs. That is going to play a huge role in how he goes. In the evening, of course, 550 runs. So, I mean, 5 sessions of Kheti after that, it doesn't really matter whether he's bowling in the morning. I mean, it's going to be very, very tough. So if he's bowling at the back of a substantial total of 4 or 5 sessions in the field for India, he's going to be deadly. He's just that kind of a bowler who would just run through a team.
And my strategy for using Mitchell Stark again would be to play him in Adelaide, not play him at the MCG and the SCG, and bring him directly back.
Bring him back for Gaba. They might even go for a 4-pronged pace attack at Gaba. If Indian team is a carcass by the time we reach there 3-0 down or something, just go for the kill, man.
Oh my goodness! Without Virat Kohli and those 4 bowlers coming in at us, I think again that's where really it gives us strength and courage that Rohit Sharma might be playing that test match.
It's not the same, group. It's not the same. You saw what happened in South Africa in 2018, right? That was probably the most serious cricket we've ever seen.
Oh my God!
There was just one man. There's just one man standing up. So,
yeah. So speaking of, in summary, will Steven Smith make 2,500 runs in the series or 1,500 runs?
3,224. So I'm going to stick my fat neck out and say that Steven Smith is going to have a bad series. I have not defined what's a bad series for him.
Oh, for him.
For him, yes.
Right. So it will be like 550 runs and a bad series.
Okay. Chalo, let me do this. He's going to score less than 400 runs this series. Is that a failed series?
Look, it's not, and I'll tell you what, a 400-run series in front of a non-wavered Bumrah, Shami.
It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. It's not a joke at all. Even for Steven Smith, it's going to not be as easy to score if he's the only guy who's doing the scoring.
Yeah, true, absolutely. It's going to be a challenge. I mean, either way, that's the thing, So as I said, except for the Ashwin versus Lyon battle, I think it's pretty evenly matched that way. Just counting 1 + 1 2 wala scenario, it's not that bad. Yeah. So it's really, so as you said, Cummins, Hazelwood, Shami, Bumrah. So it's really Stark versus Umesh, right? And right, choosing one from that.
And it's Lyon versus Ashwin.
No, Lyon versus Ashwin, so it's a gone case. I mean, there's no debate there. So seriously.
Oh man. So and then the great Sir Virat Kohli, somebody who the Australian commentators have been unable to stop talking about. They refuse to address him as anything other than King Kohli.
King Kohli, yeah.
A lot of that has got to do with IPL money and their fear that they're not going to get a job next time commenting over there. But even some of that respect is fair, right?
Some of it is due to probably him scoring 600s in Australia. No, but I agree. The build up to him playing just that one test has been insanely crazy and probably a bit too much. So it's been made up to be a series about Virat Kohli, which is I don't know how surprising is that. I don't know the last time this happened to any player who landed on the Aussie shores. They're not talking about any Australian players at all. We would have McGrath claiming 5-0.
Even the Australian commentators are like, we are here to watch Kohli and not our players.
That's really ridiculous. I mean, that's really not. I mean, it just shows how much money they are getting paid to say all that shit. So I remember Darren Lehman claiming that I just hope the Gabba crowd sends Broad home crying. Remember that after the famous incident. I just hope he goes home. So that used to be the Aussie media, and this is all.
We're gonna kill you. We're gonna kidnap your kids. That's the kind of sledging you used to get back.
And what is this all machine? King Kohli, we are blessed to have you, and this and that. I don't see any Aussie just standing up for once to, and to be really honest, Kohli has been really mellow this time around. He's not spoken a word in anger against the press or the team or anything, but I just don't know what's going on.
I think Kohli not doing any of that is expected, given that he personally has nothing to prove anymore in Australia now.
Yeah, that's true. Not as a player, not as a captain.
At least. I think he would have loved to stay back and win it again to prove definitively that it didn't matter that Smith weren't playing.
The world would have wanted him to stay back and just give us a better series. That's all. I understand, and I'm not going to be politically very incorrect in saying he should go, should not go. That's a different debate altogether. But so, as fans, yeah.
Given Kohli's importance, do you think him being in the first test will mean we're going to win the Adelaide Test match again in 2 years? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that. I never said that. He would make the loss more watchable. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's a
as such.
Sorry.
You see, we've done well in Adelaide at all times. 2003, of course, the famous Rahul Dravid test, right, or Ajit Agarkar test. 2008, Sachin scored some 170 odd, and we drew the test match. Sehwag scoring 150 on the fifth day. We drew the test match. In 2011, in the height, in the depths of Indian cricket, Kohli's maiden test 100. 2014, Kohli's twins, we almost won Adelaide. 2018, we actually won Adelaide. We've traditionally done pretty well at Adelaide, at least in this century.
I still feel like our first test should have been at the Gabba, and that would have finished off our tour right there.
Totally. Also, I mean, and the pink ball test being the first test is, it's too many unknowns there. So you don't want those kind of unknowns to creep into a test, but you want a traditional, proper, bouncy.
A good loss to begin with.
But the thing is, in all these years of coming to Australia, from 99 onwards, even 99, we have never played the first test at Gabba. That's crazy.
Is it crazy? Is it just pretty obvious that we somehow just figure out a way to blackmail the CA board?
In 2014, we were supposed to play at Gabba for the first test, but due to the Phil Hughes thing, the test match got shifted and all. But yeah, I mean, it's strange. We never played at the Gabba. I don't remember us playing at the Gabba. I know in 2014 we did play at the Gabba and all, and of course in 2003. Oh yes, 2003 we did play at Gabba in 2003. The first test match. I forgot. And the real skipper stood up. The real skipper stood up. The best 144 at that ground.
So in summary now, if you had to predict the series scoreline, what would it be?
3-0 to Australia. I'm being very generous.
Which is the test we're going to manage to draw? That's what I'm more interested in.
Either of MCG or SCG. I mean, they're very, very dull, drab tracks.
You're saying even with Rohit Sharma coming back into the squad, we're not going to win a single test?
Win, dude. Win.
These are the defending champions we're talking about, right? These are the people.
In 2018, we had the best of circumstances. We won all the tosses, and yet our intestines were almost out by the time we won. Right? And we were like at the peak of our powers. Everybody was. Right now, will not be having our regular captain, the talisman. Ishant will be missing. Rohit just about slotting in. There's so much uncertainty everywhere. So and on top of that, Aussies are a much better team, much better team. So how do you expect us to get 20 wickets and then score those runs against those guys? It's not happening.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
mean, I would be pleasantly surprised and I would be shocked and I would maybe dance naked on the roof of my flat if we manage to win one. But it's not going to happen.
well,
It won't happen.
let's hope it's at least competitive to begin with, and we don't wilt. I mean, my biggest worry is I don't want us to go back to the 2011 to 14 era where we just like are on the fields conceding hundreds of runs.
Seven. Yeah, that's the thing. Also, it's just that just have us watching the game. That's it. Please let us watch the game. Don't make it
It does
absolutely
become really
unwatchable
tough to follow it live on
to
TV when
follow,
Kohli
man.
is not on the field, though.
The 2012 11-12 series really still gives me the headaches. Clark scoring 300 on one day, coming back scoring 200 on the other day, then again Ponting scoring 200s, just like that. Hussey scoring hundreds every day.
Oh my
Warner
goodness.
scoring 100 in a session. It's too many painful memories, man.
Yeah, that's something that I didn't even consider in asking you for the series scoreline, that Warner will be back at some point, and then that'll
Warner will be
definitely
back at
be
some
the
point. That's going to make a huge difference, man. Warner is so. From the Aussie point of view, Warner is probably a bigger loss than India has in terms of bowling. I'll stick my neck out and say that too.
yeah, he could have
It's a
given,
bigger loss.
and Steven Smith coming in at 230 for two is very different from 20 for three sort of.
Also the fact that the test matches that we play are generally in the territories of 250 to 300s. That is where even kill ends.
It's a
Once a
sweet
team
spot.
goes, yeah. So once a team goes past 300, it's virtually gone. Right? Batting first or batting second. So so Warner would have really helped, like a quick 65 for no loss in 15-20 overs, and then Smith and Labuschagne to take over from that. That's a way different scenario from being 29 for one in 18 overs, and Bruce finding the rhythm.
So,
It is
given
off putting.
just a last couple of questions before we kind of wrap up this particular episode, in terms of given that the Australian openers are in such poor form, would it make sense for India to win the toss and still choose to bowl first?
No way, man. We don't want to bat in the evening. Are you crazy? No.
Not happening.
If that happens, even the best case scenario is frightening. What if Aussies are 158 all out? We still come out in the evening to bat.
So whether it's 500 or 150, we are still batting in the evening.
No, in the evening. Thanks. No. We are not going to do that. No way. Bat in the afternoon, pray to God, and that's it, man. Get
Any
as many runs.
any final thoughts to before we close up this particular one?
Okay, so let me say that if India's this win is viewed with an asterisk that Aussies didn't have their best squad, if Aussies win this one, there will be a huge asterisk too. India didn't have their best squad.
But that asterisk always remains.
That's true. They don't have the captain. They don't have their most influential opener. They don't have their best opening bowler.
I thought we agreed to the fact that Rohit Sharma coming in and Warner not playing sort of balances things out. And now
It
you're
does. It does.
backtracking.
I'm not saying that we are going to win. I'm not saying we would have won if Kohli was there. It just puts an asterisk. Just like I refuse to believe that the result of 2018 series would have been different if Warner and Smith were there. The way we were
You
bowling,
refuse to believe.
absolutely.
I think this deserves a
Bullish about
different podcast entirely.
please do that anytime. I refuse to believe that we would have not won if Warner and Smith were there. We batted the hell out of our skins on those pitches at that time, and the bowlers were in the form of their lives. I don't think it would have mattered. The margins of victory, maybe, but we would have rolled them over. We made them fall on twice, dude. Twice.
We're gonna have a chance to see if those very bowlers who are much improved now can sort of, create the same sort of impact with Stephen Smith playing and Warner possibly coming in a couple of tests. So it's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be different. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be different, but it's going to be fun. It's just, I just hope for a series that we can watch and follow, rather than just watching it on Cricinfo.
Fair enough.
That's my only wish, to be really honest.
We should do a Guju video cast after this.
પાકું કરવું છે. એ વધારે મજા આવશે.
જલ્દીથી કરીએ આપણે ગુજરાતી પોડકાસ્ટ આપણા ગુજરાતી viewers માટે.
So what are your predictions on the scoreline?
I think so. Series scoreline, I still feel like we're going to win one test. Somewhere in those 4 tests, we're going to find a way to win one single test.
We'll take 20 wickets and we'll knock off the runs that are necessary. That's what you're telling me.
It's going to be incredibly, like, I keep thinking about which might be that one ground where it might be possible for us to kind of at the MCG, like if by some stroke of luck at the MCG we end up batting first, and by some stroke of luck, and either of our batsmen go belligerent and Pujara supports and we get to like a 500 batting first in either of these tests, maybe we've got a shot. But yeah, I agree with like the 3-0.
I just heard Michael. I just 3-0 is fair. I just heard Michael won, and I fully agree with them. If India lose pink ball, it's 4-0. It's written.
Otherwise, it's 3-0.
Coincidentally, I mean, surprising. I think pink ball is the best chance that we have. In spite of all this situation, pink ball test is probably the best because we will be as close to having a full strength squad with a proper captain, and they will be at the weakest with no Warner.
Yeah,
right? And the pitch will make things even for both.
And honestly, whoever is going to bowl in the evening is going to have an advantage. Like Bumrah and Shami destroyed Australia A for like under 32 overs in the night session.
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
it's going to be difficult for both teams.
So I think even for us, the best on flat batting wickets, I'm pretty sure Cummins and Hazlewood are going to have way more of a say than say Bumrah or Shami will, because of the quality of batting too. Because once Kohli leaves and then there's Smith, Labuschagne and Warner coming back, it's going to be one hell of a leather chase.
Oh my goodness.
That's a very scary prospect lining up for us.
Yeah, let's just hope that Ajinkya Rahane finds some of his 108 not out form.
He played well. He did play really, really well. I'm just hoping
I had my reservations with Rahane as captain, but now when I really look at it, I'm like, what does it matter?
It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. That's the thing, man. It doesn't really matter. It's going to make for one hell of a series.
It is. So we'll return with a Guju podcast and our series build up in Gujarati as well.
Absolutely.
We'll meet everyone after the first test to analyze how things are going.
Oh yeah, I think we'll be meeting after every test, right?
Oh, for sure. 100%.
So
100%.
We'll be doing this after every test, and
or maybe mid test as well. Who knows?
Let's see.
I think it'd be better to. I think we should ask our viewers.
And our wives, you mean?
Yes, our wives and our family.
I'm pretty sure even they won't be watching this. So high hopes, really.
My aspiring Michael Atherton and Nasir Hussain signing off.
I think we should do test match specific podcast now.
100%. Our podcast should only be about test matches and
No, not that. Even the historical test matches, the Karachi 2000 thing. We need to do a thesis on that.
So
the Adelaide 2003.
Postmortems,
yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
Adelaide 2003.
Again, we'll ask our viewers which ones they'd want us to do first.
Yeah. Let's do a poll. Let's see who wins. True.
Okay, Adi, we'll meet soon then.
Chalo, we'll meet soon. Have a great one. Let's hope we have a wonderful pink ball test in terms of viewing, not result.
Yes. Let's hope it's enjoyable and we don't have to turn off our TVs because it gets drab. Yesterday.
Absolutely.
Okay, bro.
Yeah.
We'll meet
Okay, bye. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.